Welcome to this lecture on assessment. By the end of this lecture, and after completing the assigned reading, you will be able to describe the role of assessment in therapeutic recreation program design, identify and explain the tools used during the assessment process, explain the importance of a life story or social history in the assessment process, explain the importance of observation as an assessment tool employed by RTAs. Differentiate between the role of the recreation therapist, or RT, and the recreation therapy assistant, or RTA, in the assessment phase. Summarize how assessment sets the stage for therapeutic recreation program design. Let's begin by reflecting on a few foundational points about the profession of TR. It is grounded in humanistic psychology and positive psychology. It is a strengths-based profession. Keep this in mind as you learn about the first component of the assessment, planning, implementing, and evaluating approach, also known as the API process, or APIE. Let's start with assessment. The focus of the assessment is strengths-oriented. Recreation therapists focus on assessing strengths, positive traits, and abilities, and they often remind clients or residents of the strengths they already have. The profession of TR recognizes that recreational skills, talents, and abilities are strengths for our clients. Using and building on clients' strengths creates the potential to bring about therapeutic benefits in TR and to increase high-level wellness and increased quality of life. What do you think we mean when we talk about a client's strengths? Many things about a client can be considered strengths, but often these strengths are unknown to the individual client. The assessment process can play a role in helping clients to realize their own strengths. Strengths can be traits a person has, skills they have developed, virtues they hold, or social and environmental situations or supports. Look at this list of strengths. Which ones stand out to you the most? Which strengths do you have? Are any of them a surprise to you? We'll give you 10 seconds to read through the list. Refer to your readings to find out more about how and why these strengths are important and how they can be used in the assessment process. Discovering they possess strengths that they may not have recognized can be therapeutic for clients. Helping clients understand their own strengths is powerful because they can learn how skills from one area of life can be used and applied to another. For example, strengths used at work, perhaps persistence or determination, can also be used in rehabilitation or therapy. Learning to recognize and apply strengths can be critical in helping a client overcome difficulties. Assessment of strengths can lead to the client discovering potentials for building strengths. Assessment is a clinical process and the basis for all TR services. Programs and interventions cannot be developed to meet the needs and interests of the people we serve if the needs, interests, strengths, medical condition, social history, legal status, ethnic values, and context in which they occur are not identified. The individualized intervention plan or treatment plan is the outcome of the assessment process. Programs and interventions flow from the individualized intervention plan. The recreation therapist completes an assessment to gain information that is useful in helping the client benefit from programs, interventions, and services. Assessment helps the TR team determine client strengths, interests, needs, and expectations. The assessment process includes the following: sensory assessment, cognitive assessment, social assessment, physical assessment, affective assessment, leisure assessment, and functional skills assessment. During the assessment process, a needs list will evolve. The needs list helps further guide the direction of TR programming. This is an example of some needs that are considered common to older adults living in care communities. Which ones stand out to you the most? Are any of them a surprise to you? We'll leave 10 seconds here to read through this list. Refer to your readings to find out more about how and why these needs are important and how they can be addressed in the planning and implementation process. The best source of knowledge about a client is, of course, the client, or the primary source. Secondary sources are almost always used as well. Secondary sources include medical records, results of testing, for example, psychological testing, interviews with family or friends, social history, case recordings or progress notes that staff have charted, care conference notes, and team meetings with other staff. Both objective data from various sources and subjective information gained directly from the client are required for a thorough assessment. Objective information includes data from secondary sources. Subjective assessment data is gathered directly from a client. Subjective data includes information which can be provided only by the client, such as their perception of what they are experiencing or their attitudes, desires, feelings, and needs. Earlier in the program, you learned about cultural competence, which begins with the TR team understanding and respecting the culture of their clients. It's important and expected that the recreation therapists conduct their assessments with cultural competence. If an RT or an RTA is unfamiliar with the culture of a client, they can and should learn from the client and do further research. The RT selects and uses a variety of assessment tools to identify and measure important information about the client. Observing and interviewing are the two most common and frequently used methods of client assessment. Interviewing is the responsibility of the recreation therapist, and while both the RT and the RTAs use observation, it is through observation that RTAs typically contribute the most. Some of the tools used are standardized tools, and some are facility-specific and facility-developed tools, which are based on professional and clinical judgment made by the RT. During the assessment process, the RT also views the results of assessments of other professionals and standardized tools, that is, secondary objective sources. The recreation therapist will generally attempt to conduct at least one initial interview with every new client. The client-centered interview usually has three objectives. First, the interview provides an opportunity for the therapist to gain information from the client and to observe the client. Second, to begin to develop a relationship or gain rapport with the client to foster a caring therapist-client relationship. And third, orientation to the program or programs available to the client may be provided. Observation is a method of assessment used by both the RT and the RTA. Because RTA spend so much time with the clients and get to see them in day-to-day interactions and engaging with each other in programs, they are in an excellent position to observe and share those observations with the RT and the TR team. There are four main types of observation. Casual observation is the type of non-systematic observation in which people engage daily. Skilled observations are carefully completed in an organized manner and are as free as possible from personal bias. Skilled observations are carefully completed in an organized manner and are as free as possible from personal bias. Skilled observers learn to disregard irrelevant material and to become selective in their observations. Knowing what to look for and what to expect in terms of normal behavior is important in order to describe observations in objective and factual terms. Skilled observers are also unobtrusive and do not alter or change clients' behaviors. Naturalistic observation: the observer does not attempt to manipulate or change the natural environment. This method calls for the observer to keep an ongoing account of the client's behavior through written anecdotal notes, photographs, video, or a combination of these techniques. Specific goal observation requires precision and planning, since the observer sets definite goals for observation in order to meet a particular purpose or to observe a well-defined behavior. A key foundation of strengths-based practice and person-centered approach is that in order to practice it, we need to first know who each person is that we are serving. One of the outcomes of the assessment process is the development of a social history or life story of each client. The social history or life story of a person helps us understand who they are and a little about the journey to get to where they are today. The life story or social history often includes information about who and what is important to them, their interests, strengths, and things they are proud of. It is a great starting point for the RT and the RTA to begin to understand their clients. It is a starting point because the more meaningful interaction we have with each client, the more we learn and can add to their life story. The social history is often shared with the care team and sometimes even posted in the client's room or on their door so that others can read it and use the information to begin meaningful conversations. Knowing someone's history reminds people we are dealing with people, not patients or conditions. After the assessment process is complete, the RT completes two key TR processes. They develop an individualized intervention plan for each client, and they analyze and evaluate the needs and interests of the group of clients. Both processes lead to the selection of evidence-based activities that can meet the individual needs of clients and the needs common to the group of clients. These evidence-based activities fall into the category of facilitation techniques and must be thoroughly understood by the TR team so they can ensure optimal therapeutic benefit for the client or clients. From here, programs and sessions are designed and developed to further meet the needs of the residents. You will be introduced to many facilitation techniques used in TR throughout this course. You learned earlier in the program that documentation occurs throughout each of the 4 phases of the TR API processes and is an integral part of each phase. Documentation in the assessment phase includes the actual assessment tool used by the therapist, which is filed in the client's chart, the social history or life story, also filed in the client's chart and shared with the interdisciplinary team, the individual intervention plan, which is filed in the client's chart and shared with the TR team, and a progress note or chart note placed in the client's chart by the therapist summarizing the assessment results. You learned about the CTRA standards of practice earlier in the program, and you know that they are built on the TR process or API process, because it is the foundation of TR. After listening to this lecture, take time to review the CTRA Standards of Practice document and pay particular attention to the standard of assessment. When reviewing the assessment standard, pay close attention to the roles and responsibilities of the RT and the role and responsibilities of the RTA. Notice how they are similar, how they are different, and how the two work together. Determining client strengths, needs, and interests during the assessment process guides the TR team in selecting, designing, and developing interventions during the planning phase. After completing the initial assessment procedures, the recreation therapist has formed the basis for individual customized program planning and can move to the second step in the TR API process, the planning phase. In this lecture, you learned about the role of assessment in the therapeutic recreation program design, the tools used during the assessment process, the importance of a life story or social history in the assessment process, the importance of observation as an assessment tool employed by the RTAs, the role of the recreation therapist or RT, and the role of the recreation therapy assistant or RTA in the assessment phase. and how assessment sets the stage for therapeutic recreation program design. Thank you for listening.